Hey everyone, I'm James Longstrom. I'm one of the coaches at Team Biolayne, and today I'm going to give you guys the 3 keys to maximizing your muscle growth potential. The first one is resistance training. So you have to be regularly performing resistance training in order to maximize your muscle growth. Your adaptations to resistance training are going to depend on a few key factors. One of them is volume. So you can measure this in a number of different ways, but generally the best way to do it is how many sets per week per muscle group you're performing. And in the literature, it's around 10 to 15, but can be much higher depending on your training experience. The next variable is going to be high effort. So you want to be training at an appropriate intensity, generally above 70%, but it can be lower at times. And you want to be close to failure. So a few reps, 2 to 3 reps from failure. The next one is time under tension. So you want to make sure that you're performing reps at an appropriate speed where you're controlling the weight and it's not too fast and jerky. You want to make sure that you have good control over the weight and you're controlling the weight up and down at an appropriate rate. And the last one is going to be your frequency. So how many times per week you're going to target a specific muscle group. Generally for beginners, that could be 1 session per muscle group per week. So maybe you just train legs once a week. But for some more advanced people, it could mean that 2 to 3 sessions per week targeting a specific muscle group is enough. Resistance training alone isn't going to be enough to maximize your muscle growth. You're also going to want to make sure that's combined with adequate protein intake. Now, we have pretty good data from the recent meta-analysis by Morton et al. 2018 that suggests anywhere from 1.6 grams per kg body weight all the way up to 2.2 grams per kg body weight is enough to maximize muscle growth potential. Anything beyond that doesn't necessarily lead to more growth, but if you are a more advanced trainee or if you've been training for a long time and you're closer to that genetic ceiling of your muscle growth potential, you might want to consider eating more. And also remember that there's really not any negative consequences to consuming higher intakes of protein. If you want to make sure you're maximizing your muscle growth potential, then make sure that you're eating towards the upper end range of that 2.2, maybe even higher of grams per kg body weight. Now, so long as you're eating adequate daily protein intake, that's going to be the most important factor with protein intake. If you want to take that a step further and make sure that you're maximizing your muscle protein synthesis per meal, the science out there says anywhere from 0.24 grams per kg per meal all the way up to 0.4 grams per kg per meal is enough to maximally stimulate muscle protein synthesis. And again, that's going to depend on your age and your training status. So if you're somebody who's younger and untrained, you can stick closer to that lower end of the range of that 0.24. And if you're somebody who's older or more trained and you've been training for a while, you're going to want to stick towards that upper end, maybe even a little bit more than 0.4 grams per kg per meal. Also, a couple other things with protein intake, you're going to want to make sure that you're consuming adequate leucine content. So the science suggests somewhere around 3 grams per meal is enough to again, maximally stimulate muscle protein synthesis. And also you're gonna wanna make sure to put a larger portion of your protein intake towards after your training. So if you just got done training and you're gonna have either a post-workout meal or shake, you're gonna wanna make sure it's definitely towards that upper end of that 0.4 grams, maybe even a little bit higher. Distribute more of your protein intake after your training session. Now, the last key variable for maximizing your muscle growth is consuming enough calories. So it is possible to grow muscle while eating in a calorie deficit, but you're not really maximizing your muscle growth potential. So in order to do that, you're gonna wanna make sure you're eating in a calorie surplus. And that can be anywhere around 10 to 20% above maintenance. And again, that's gonna depend on your training status. So if you're somebody who's more trained and who has been working out consistently for many years, you're going to want to shoot for that upper end range of that 20% above maintenance. And if you're somebody who's untrained, you just don't need as much calories to support muscle growth because you're further away from your genetic potential. So just resistance training and eating enough protein is going to be enough to stimulate muscle growth. But if you want to maximize that, you're going to want to be around 10% above maintenance. So to wrap everything up, again, the 3 key variables are regularly performing resistance training, eating adequate protein intake, and consuming enough calories, again, roughly 10 to 20% above your maintenance. And that's it, guys. Thank you for watching the video. Like the video, share the video if you liked it, and be sure to follow me at James Longstrom, and you can follow me and the rest of the Team Biolayne coaches at Team Biolayne. If you guys are interested in coaching or you have any questions, shoot me a direct email to james@biolayne.com. Thanks, everyone.